Parikshit, Pratyush, Fayaz, and Spandana from Capgemini, and their topic will be low cost mainframe test automation solution. Inviting them up on stage.
Hi everyone. I'm Parikshit from Capgemini. So we are here basically to talk about our test automation solution, right? Which is a low-cost mainframe test automation solution. So before we go into the details, I would like to first of all take this opportunity to thank STC and the jury members to giving us this opportunity to present this white paper in front of you, right? Now, moving ahead, I also want to take this opportunity to introduce the team of authors who are behind this white paper. Right. So I have already introduced myself to you, and I have with me Pratyush, who will be also presenting for us during this entire presentation. And I also have Fayaz and Spandana. Both of them have also been instrumental to developing this solution and then this white paper as well. So, having said that, let's move on to the agenda of this session, right? So, the way we have structured this is basically to go through first of all little bit of history or a little bit of challenges which we faced and why we basically created this solution at the first go. So we wanted to walk you through the journey of this legacy system automation, wherein we'll discuss why we wanted to find an alternative solution. Then we'll talk about the problem statement, right? That is, about what we wanted to resolve, right, as part of the problem statement, and then we'll talk about the solution, which is how we did it, how we actually overcome the problem, and then we'll also provide you a small demo to actually have a look at how the solution looked like, and then we'll also talk about realized benefits of this solution. Okay. Now moving on to the next slide. Uh, this is what we have gone through. So this is the journey so far, and then we just wanted to touch upon what all points we went through this entire journey, right? But before we go there, I would like to talk about a little bit about mainframe automation, right? Why mainframe automation, or why it is so critical in today's world? Because now we are talking all about AI, ML, next gen automation, happening nowadays. But then still, mainframes are relevant, and then for automating mainframes, we already have a lot of tools in the market currently available, right? But then those are all either licensed tools which are very expensive, or tools which are available for free but not that much effective. Now, talking about mainframes as such, the coverage they have or their significance in today's world, mainframes are currently used by around 70% or more than 74% of Fortune 500 companies. And as in our case, we were actually doing this for a FS or financial services client. So in financial services itself, mainframes are huge, right? As per the IBM survey done in 2020, top 44 or out of top 50 banks worldwide, 44 banks are using mainframe still, and out of top 10 insurers worldwide, all of them are still using mainframe. So for financial sector, mainframes are still something which is still there and still relevant. Now, with that comes the next question: how do we test mainframe? So, as I was talking about that, with UFT, typically we have all the mainframe testing done. In fact, with our current engagement, where our current in our current engagement, the client already had UFT as an automation tool. Now with UFT, you all know there are high license costs, right? So that is something which was a big deterrent. Why not to go ahead with UFT? Because although the solution is available, some of the scenarios really prevented us from using UFT in the current environment where we were working with, right? So one of them was high license costs. It was really not a deterrent, but then looking at the trends of IT budget allocation, right, from past few years. So now, if you look at on the right hand side of your screen, right, we have a chart or a trend chart from World Quality Report 2021, which talks about budget allocation to QA activities, like overall IT budget allocation to QA activities. And now you can see there that the trend is kind of on the downward side, right? So from 2015 onwards, over the period of years, the allocation to QA budget is been decreasing. At the same time, if you look at the other chart which we have, right, which is breakdown of QA budget, uh, below the first chart. So there we are talking about whatever budget gets allocated to QA, right? Out of that, how much is getting allocated to hardware, how much is getting to allocated to tools or software licenses, and so on. Now again, there if you see the breakup, right, majority of the percentages go to, over the period of year again, it again goes to hardware infrastructure and license costs, right, and then third comes the actual human resource who are going to work on those tools and develop the automation for it. So in that sense, really whatever budget gets allocated, most of the budget is used for either hardware infrastructure or any tool cost. So that can be automation or that can be non-automation as well, right? In the testing life cycle, whatever tools are being used. Now, having said that, that becomes very critical, to reduce the tool usage or tool license costs. So that was one of the reasons why we considered an alternative solution, and we tried to develop one. Because in today's world, as the budgets are decreasing for QA, it becomes that much important, and it becomes more beneficial for the clients as well to save those costs. Now, speaking about the specific case which we are talking about here, we had to automate mainframes, and along with mainframes, we also had some peripheral systems to automate. So, with mainframes, you have DB2 databases to validate, then you have batch jobs to execute, you have some other systems, like you have output files which are in either CSV, XMLs, right? So you'll need to validate those as well. So all of that taken into consideration, we wanted to use or develop a solution which will help us in doing that. On top of that, with UFT, we also faced few other challenges. So if we talk about the point in green below, which is security restrictions limiting the tool usage, we had client infra teams limiting the usage of UFT tool. So because we were not able to utilize UFT on normal Citrix machines because of some security challenges which they had at that time, we had to get specific VDIs deployed for installation of UFT. So that increased the hardware requirements. So if you again link all this together, we have increased hardware requirements, which will contribute to again higher costs, and then security restrictions, which was limiting the tool usage only for the VDIs which we were using, and then only VDIs will also was also impacting on reduction in overall scope. So if you see the last point in that journey, right, we had a reduction in overall automation scope at enterprise level. Why? Because we were actually not able to do automation across all applications, because some of the applications were not available on the VDIs, and then the UFT was not installable on the other systems like direct Citrix systems. So we were losing out on automation scope, whereas we knew that we could do automation in that case. So that's where we started to think on developing a new solution, and that's where we came up with our solution. So the problem statement again which we had is we wanted to remove the dependency on licensed automation tool. We wanted to find the alternate solution for test automation for mainframe and peripheral systems. And when we talk about peripheral systems, eventually we also added few functionalities to it, wherein we actually did automation or did integration with APIs with the same framework. So that's something which we had the requirement for, and then which we did that as well. And then we wanted to develop a lightweight automation framework. Now, having said that, this is all about the background, and then I would want to hand it over to Pratyush to take over and discuss on the solution highlights, and then give you walk you through the demo. Over to you, Pratyush.
Thanks, Parikshit. I think Parikshit has made it very clear the importance of mainframe in the current financial world and the challenges we face to provide an end-to-end test automation solution for mainframe. With this, now let's see what we can provide with our solution. Along with support of mainframe automation, the centralized and external dataset and object repository, the easy-to-use wrapper function or the keyword driver libraries, and the modular structure of the framework helps increase reusability and reduce complication during maintenance to a large extent. During the era of transformation, when all the industries are shifting towards newest technologies, we also have support of validation of REST APIs endpoints. It also supports validate any output file like Excel, XML, JSON, and so on. We also support validation of data from DB2 or SQL database. Not only this, we provide a detailed report in HTML or CSV format explaining all the steps. We will be seeing that format in the demo. Along with that, the logs file makes it easy to understand and track down any error during the run. The framework can also be configured to send email notifications at the end of every executions. With this, can we move on to next slide? Okay. So here we have already seen what is the solution. Now let's talk how. Let me walk you through the architecture of the framework. As we know, to interact with mainframe application from any Windows device, we need to use a third-party interface called Mainframe Terminal Emulator. In our case, we are using Micro Focus Reflection Emulator, which is one of the most popular available in the market. As part of the solution, we are using VBScript as a scripting language, which is very lightweight, and RIBM object by Micro Focus to interact with the mainframe script. The design of the framework is a combination of both data-driven and keyword-driven mechanism, or we can say hybrid approach. The framework not only provide a foundation, but a series of libraries can be used for multiple functionalities like handling CSV files, some other customized data structure as well. The framework starts by the core engine, which implements the major components like the config, the reporting engine, and the harness. The config file contains lots of configuration parameters which can act as key required to lock or unlock lot of features in the framework, such as the reporting, the format of report we want, or maybe enabling or disabling email notifications, and so on. The reporting engine is a tool designed to assist the framework in preparing logs and reports. Now coming to the harness, it is the key component when it comes to reading the test cases which are going to be executed and the individual steps of those test cases. Now the object to interact with mainframe terminal emulator is also initialized inside harness, which exposes the method and properties to perform any action. Harness also handles the keyword-driven and data-driven component of the framework. UI driver, which is a keyword-driven component, contains lot of keywords which are built on top of the RIBM object. The data-driven component enables execution of multiple test cases with parameterized input. Those are the test data. The test scripts, which uses the keywords to perform any operation on mainframe screen with the help of the data provided from the data-driven component. Now let's see what are some of the other components. So we have test set. Test set can contain multiple number of test cases and which can be used to configure or select test case for a given execution, kind of like creating a test suite. Now test case contains the flow of individual test cases and has the option to select the required dataset for that complete flow. So we have already seen test data, we have already seen UI driver. Now let's come to test scripts or the drivers. This contains the actual automation script or the functions required to execute a test case. These test scripts uses test data, UI driver and object repository to do any operation on the script. Now coming to the object repositories. Now, as such, mainframe do not have any objects. We only have the mainframe screen to interact with. But the implementation here is bit unique. we have combined multiple properties on the screen like text, the x and y coordinate to recognize individual element as an object. The benefit of this approach is whenever there is any modification in the mainframe script, we do not need to update the actual script, but we can just update the object repository files. Talking about files, what we have done is we have implemented all our files in CSV formats so that we want to remove dependencies on external applications like Excel, because in our experience, we have seen some of the client environment do not have Office installed, and we also want to reduce the license cost. Okay, so with this, can we move on to the next slide? Okay, now let me walk you through a small demo. Okay, so initially we will see the the framework folder or the framework structure. So we have the test set file. So that is again a CSV file which may contain lot of test cases. In our example, we have only one test case for the demo purpose. So the test case name is query and validate db2, the execution and reporting as enabled as y. Now we will go to the test case. The test case file contains the flow of the test case. You can see the test case name is same, query and validate db2. We have the step name, the component name, the functions required for that test case, and the dataset. Dataset everywhere we are using DS1, and all of them are again enabled. So yes, these are the test case name. So that same test case we will be executing now. Now coming to the data. So we can have multiple data files. As of now, we will be showing you one of the data file, that is general component data. So here we have the function name again. What are the data parameter required for individual functions, and which data set we are using. As we have seen, we are only using DS1. So the data like the username, password, everything are from DS1. Now we will quickly jump on to see the object repositories. As we have already discussed, object repositories are kind of a combination of multiple properties. Like here we have the inner text. We have multiple objects here with inner text and x and y coordinates so that we can recognize individual objects in the screen. And we don't need to modify any of the objects in the actual script, which is a bit tedious. Okay, now let's move on to the actual script where which actually drives the automation. These are all VBScript files. VBScript do not need any external applications to execute in any mainframe environment. So we will go through one of the script. So if we can see line number 84, so that is a function called function execute query. And in the next line, line number 85, we can see we have used comp or, so that is the component object repository, and the object name is verify SQL command window. So that is we are getting from the object repository. Next, we have something called dot wait for object. So this wait for object is a keyword we are getting from the keyword libraries or the UI driver. So we have multiple keywords like set text and send keys in line number 87 and 88. So some of these keywords can be very useful because it can be reused multiple number of times, and we can have proper error handling with these keywords. So UI driver handles all this. Now we have data.value at line number 87 and 89. So with this, we are getting data from the external datasets. We don't need to hard code any values. We can directly easily get the values from the external datasets. And finally, we have the result.pass or result.fail at line number 86 on line number 92, which are all the verification points in case of we have to fail or pass the statement, and it will be reflected in the final HTML report. Yeah, with this we will close this and we will quickly go to the execution of the test case. Okay, so for execution of test case, we have the run file, which is kind of starting point for execution. Once we run this file, so once we run this file, it will open the mainframe session. Yeah, so it will load the session. It will wait till the session is completely loaded. It will also wait till it is connected to the actual environment or the mainframe host. It will wait till that time. Once it is connected, we can perform any actions. Yes, you can see it is performing. It is already giving usernames and password. Once it is logged in, we are also verifying if it is perfectly logged in or not. And we will go to DB2, then spoofy to process any SQL statement. So we will be giving the dataset name, the SQL query to be executed, everything we are getting from the datasets. And once it is executed, we will be validating few fields from the screen and we will be exiting the mainframe. Now let's see how the execution went. We will quickly go to the logs folder. We'll see logs is generated. Yes, we have the logs generated with a proper timestamp. And we have the summary report. The summary report may contain lot of test cases, but in this case, we have executed only one test case and it is passed. Once clicking on the test case, it will open another HTML file which reflects all the steps and the duration. Here the duration you can see is only 40 seconds. In 40 seconds, we have completed all the verifications and getting file from a lot of external datasets. And we have all the complete details of each and every steps being performed and anyone can verify. It is so easier to match the expected versus actual statement. So you can see there are the queries executed and finally what values we are getting, the component type and subcomponent type we are verifying and the status is also passed for both of them. So this is kind of a quick demo on the framework. I hope this is pretty clear. Thank you. Over to you, Parikshit.
Hey, thanks, Pratyush. So, yeah, I think that was very well explained by Pratyush, the overall demonstration of the solution. Now, what we wanted to have a look at is the actual realized benefits from this solution which we have built, right? So here you can see we have a chart for ROI, and early ROI is one of the major benefits which we have seen. So here we are taking a case of around 100 automation or 100 test cases which we had automated, and we have around 350 licenses. If we had used the traditional way, right, to do automation, we would have used 350 licenses for this to basically automate it within certain period of time and then start executing it afterwards. Now, when we talk about ROI, here we have three lines here, right? So ROI is basically whenever you reach a break even, and then from there you start getting benefits. Now here we have the first line, which is the orange one, which is talking about the manual testing cost, right? So the orange line is about manual testing cost. Then the yellow line, which is on top of it, that is about the low cost solution implementation, or low cost automation cost, basically low cost solution automation cost. So that is again starting after the execution. So initial cost is already taken care of, and then this is from cycle one onwards. So this is like execution cycle one onwards, how much time is it going to take to reach your ROI or achieve your ROI. And then we have another line on top, which is the blue line, which is for the UFT solution. So if we do it with the solution which we have developed, and then with the UFT solution, which is your traditional approach of automation. Now, development efforts are somewhere similar between these two frameworks when we try and compare that. But then initially itself, we have big difference in their overall cost. Why? Because UFT framework cost, sorry, UFT license cost itself will eat into your budget, right? So as of now, we need around 3 UFT licenses, and if you think of individual UFT license, costing somewhere around 3,500 USD. So for 3 licenses, you are paying that much more, right? So that is how the difference is there from the start. Now, when you talk about getting ROI, if you see for year one and year two, so we have this prediction over the period of 1.5 year. So for year one, we should reach the ROI at cycle five only, with the required number of test cases which we have to execute every regression cycle. And if you see where we are getting the ROI, or where we are reaching the break-even point for UFT solution, that is 3 cycles after when we reach ROI for the low-cost solution which we have developed. That is purely based on the license costs saving, right? And then beyond that as well, if you look at the start of cycle 11, so this is where the gray line changes into a blue. Uh, there we are going into year two, and there we are basically increasing the cost of QFT because we'll have to renew the licenses, right? So there we are renewing the licenses, and that's where the cost difference even becomes more. So that's where I think we have challenges, and then that's where the solution which we have developed is performing really better. And a quick thing here on how or how much beneficial it is. So if you have a look at the end of year at 1.5, you can see the numbers here. The savings basically, cumulative savings with UFT are somewhere around 12,000 or 13,000 US dollars, whereas with the solution which we have developed, it is around 32,000 plus, right? So there is a difference of around 20 odd thousand dollars for this specific implementation which we have. So that is very beneficial to the client as well, where we are making these savings. And then to talk about the other realized benefits which come along with what we just showed you, other than early ROI, the tool onboarding costs or tool onboarding timelines are reduced. So that is very important for us to start automation as early as possible. Then the second one is reduced lead time, right? When we talk about reduced lead time, we don't have to bring in a new automation tool into picture. So we don't have to get all those clearances, and we know that wherever we want to set up the framework, we can do it within the client environment. It does not have any specific huge requirements. The only requirement which we have is the RIBM object which we are using for the reflection mainframe. And that reflection desktop basically, which is provided by Micro Focus, that is something which is being used by our client, and the framework is completely built on top of it. But then we have also seen feasibility for the framework to be working on some other emulators which are widely available, right? So for example, we have Roomba, we have Extra, right? So all those emulators also do provide some of the interfaces which we can retrofit into the framework, and we can also start using it. So I think the solution overall as is not only restricted to reflection, but we can always think of expanding it to the other emulators as well. On top of that, something which we have also observed is the faster execution time. So we have observed that if we compare the same script, execution with UFT, we are seeing around 10 to 15% reduction in execution time as well. So I think that is something which is really beneficial in the long term. Reduced cost, we have already talked about it, so I'll not go into detail of that. And then reusability and maintainability, because the framework is structured in a way where it promotes more and more reusability and it is low on maintenance. So that is also going to help, in the long term. So, having said that, that's all we have from our side. Thank you again to give this opportunity to us to present in front of you, and we are open for any questions now. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So, Parikshit, I think we have few questions here. The first question is, how are you managing the expected result hard-coded into CSV? And what if I want to run only few cases? Here, how are you managing that?
Yeah, you want to take that, Pratyush?
Sure. Okay. So first, in this question, first is how we are managing the expected result here. No, it is not hard coded into the CSV. Some of the expected and actual statement comes from the UI driver. It is handled completely by the UI driver, so it comes from from there. Automatically, we can generate the expected and actual statement, and some of the expected and actual statement comes from the code itself. So I think that is clear. And the second one is, but if I want to run only few cases, and how can, yes, it can be managed in the test set file. We have seen the testset.csv file, it has only one test case for this demo purpose. Obviously, we can have hundreds and thousands of test cases, and we can make it as yes or no in that file. The Y and N status was there. We can make it to configure if it can run it or not. Okay.
Correct.
Now coming to the second question. I think it is regarding the password we are storing in the CSV file.
Correct, correct. So I
Yeah,
think,
but
yeah, let me take that, Pratyush. So password, correct. So we are currently storing the password directly into the CSV file, but we have just started developing this solution for last 6 to 7 months now. We have a plan to actually do encryption algorithm on that. So we are planning to implement an encryption algorithm so that the and we in future we are also trying to make this more user friendly. So now it is like pure like a technical play, right? You will have to understand everything to do automation with this. But the future for this, what we see is that we want to build a nice user interface on top of the framework, right? So that any non-technical user can go into it, and then when we plan that, we are also planning to do a encryption for very critical fields, so user can say that, okay, I want to encrypt username and password. That option will be given to the user, and then only that data set would get encrypted, and then while executing we can again then decrypt that, and that should not be a big problem.
yes, Parikshit. On top of that, I'd like to just add one thing. The modular structure of this framework actually enables to add any features in future so easily
Yeah,
that we do not need to recreate all modify the whole framework.
correct, correct. Okay, so I think these are all the questions we have. Yeah, I think that's about it, guys. Thank you. Uh, that's about it. Thank you, everyone. And yeah, that's about it. If you want to take it up.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.